Okay, we'll get started on Federalist 17, Part 1. I'm going to read the whole paragraph first. An objection of a nature different from that which has been stated and answered in my last address may perhaps be likewise urged against the principle of legislation for the individual citizens of America. It may be said that it would tend to render the government of the Union too powerful and to enable it to absorb those residuary authorities which it may be judged proper to leave with the states for local purposes, allowing the utmost latitude to the love of power which any reasonable man can require. I confess I am at a loss to discover what temptation the persons entrusted with the administration of the general government could ever feel to divest the states of the authorities of that description. The regulation of the mere domestic police of a state appears to me to hold out slender allurements to ambition. Commerce, finance, negotiation, and war seem to comprehend all the objects which have charms for minds governed by that passion, and all the powers necessary to those objects ought in the first instance to be lodged in the national depository. The administration of private justice between the citizens of the same state, the supervision of agriculture, and of other concerns of a similar nature, all those things, in short, which are proper to be provided for by local legislation, can never be desirable cares of a general jurisdiction. It is therefore improbable that there should exist a disposition in the federal councils to usurp the powers with which they are connected, because the attempt to exercise those powers would be as troublesome as it would be nugatory, and the possession of them for that reason would contribute nothing to the dignity, to the importance, or to the splendor of the national government. Here again, Hamilton wants to remind the people in the Union, the people of all of the United States, that a union amongst them, amongst their states, is much better than having 13 different countries or 3 or 4 confederacies. And he says that people are accusing us of giving you a constitution which enables the federal government to take all the power away from the state governments. He says, this is not true, this is crazy, federal government would not want to do that. All that federal government wants is, under this new constitution, is to be able to apply its laws to people that live in 13 states. When in that first line, he says, principle of legislation for the individual citizens of America. Over the past few Federalists, we learned that in the first Constitution of America, under the Articles of Confederation, a lot of the things that the Congress, the Confederation wanted to do, they had to ask the states to help them with. They could not directly go to the people and say, we want to help you, or we want you to give us some tax money so that we can build this, so that we can keep our army on the field. So they learned this lesson. Some of the leaders of America learned this lesson from the past 11 years after they declared independence, that a lot of the things that the states had done were wrong. And a lot of the things that their first constitution had was wrong. So they wanted to remedy that. They wanted to correct that error. They wrote this new constitution and they said one of the first things we have to do is if needed at the time of an emergency, we have to be directly able to tax the citizens. Also, if a citizen breaks the federal law, we have to be able to go after them, take them to court, and punish them if needed. We don't have to go to the state and ask the state to do this for us. So that's what he repeatedly says. But when he says that, the critics, those people who don't like the new Constitution, they say you're going to take too much power away from us. You're going to absorb, it says, those residuary authorities. Remaining. Residuary means remaining authorities. In other words, a lot of the law, a lot of the rights, a lot of the things that the state does, the critics are saying that we are going to absorb all of those and leave nothing for the state to do. We're going to leave the state a very weak partner. And some of our critics are saying that we're just going to definitely actually do away with the state. We would say, what is the state for anyways? And Federalist Publius constantly says, no, we don't want to do that. There are only 4 things that this Constitution gives the general government. When they say general or national, they all mean federal. When they say particular, they mean the state. So here it says the federal government, the general government, all they do is they want to be able to have the final say in commerce, finance, and negotiations in war and peace, negotiations in treaty, as well as pursuing a war. Says we're going to do those, and we're going to leave the states the rest of the power. Especially what's important is the police power. We're going to let you be in charge of education, agriculture, police power. If you notice, for example, in the United States, there are different state laws, and different cities have different police departments, and a lot of these powers that are very essential, the powers that touch people's lives immediately, it's in the hands of the state. For example, the laws of marriage and divorce, some of the inheritance laws, things that are very important has always been in the hands of the states. So Publius says, do not spread rumors and lies. We only want enumerated powers. These are powers that the Constitution tells the federal government can have. The rest of the powers, the majority of powers, would be in the hands of the states. So it's constantly reminding that a lot of our critics are just spreading lies or telling you half of the truth. And where it says it is therefore improbable that there should exist a disposition in the federal councils to usurp the powers with which they are connected. Usurp means to go beyond, to abuse your power, to go outside of your limited authority. It says federal government is not going to usurp its power. It's going to stick to what has been given to it and will not do that because the federal government knows that it needs the state governments a lot. Because in another Federalist, if you remember, Publius says, even if we didn't have state governments now, we would have to create some. So again, here just constantly tells that we shouldn't worry about federal government running all over the state governments. And this is kind of what we have to look at as we look at these Federalist Papers to learn about federalism, and hopefully in the future we can try to unite humanity under a federal system. The same thing will happen, the same thing will apply there. When you go into a union under a federal union in the future, it doesn't mean that your country is going to lose all its power. It will be, these things will be negotiated, and there should be a happy medium in between, provided, in my mind, the most important thing, that the dignity of every human being is respected, acknowledged, and not violated. Every human being living everywhere on this planet.